Welcome, beautiful people, and thank you for joining us on Till the Wheels Fall Off, a podcast by Two Faux Couple. I'm Matt.
And I'm Paige.
And we're here to inspire others, to bring you guys into our lives and tell you a little bit about our journey. Over 20 years together, we've learned a few things.
We're going to work toward being the best version of yourself possible. We're going to dig into building a positive mindset, discuss mental health, addiction recovery, improving fitness, building businesses, and insight into what it takes to navigate life today.
Welcome back to another episode of Till the Wheels Fall Off. I'm Matt.
I'm Paige.
And we're going to get through this as best we can. I'm dealing with a sickling over here.
Yeah, sorry.
Tell him what you did.
I didn't go to the doctor in time, so my strep turned into bronchitis.
Love the accountability there, man. Just out with it. That's exactly right. I live with an 80-year-old man who doesn't believe in doctors.
That's bullshit. I do believe in doctors.
And when she gets sick, she's like,
I thought it was viral, okay? And when it's viral, they can't do anything for you. But then he started getting the symptoms. He's like, I'm going to go to the doctor. And he did. And they gave him a prescription because he had strep. So I was like, oh, well, shit. I'm already way past this.
I suspected I had strep because my throat hurt, just like yours did 3 days prior. I was like, if it's strep, it's great news.
But
because
I had congestion and all this other
stuff
stuff with it too. Okay, y'all, this is just one of my character defects, okay?
Anyway, if you're watching this on YouTube, you'll notice a toilet paper roll on our desk.
Because I went through 2 boxes of Kleenexes yesterday.
Y'all, she filled up like yard garbage bags.
This was good toilet paper, though. It's not like totally tearing up my nose.
That's that 4-ply.
So I apologize in advance that I sound ridiculous. I don't
nasally.
know why. I used to not ever get sick. I don't know what's going on this year. I've been getting sick a lot. If you listen to some of the podcasts, it's like I'm constantly getting a bug. So don't know what the hell's going on.
Kids will do that to you.
Maybe it is
Have
the
kids, they said. It'll be awesome.
So much fun.
It'll be great.
All right. So anyway, apologize in advance. So what are we talking about today, Boo?
Okay, we're going to get into a topic I think that needs to be addressed, and we've addressed it here many times, but we've got a lot of new listeners, a lot of new people who are coming in, a lot of people who have just recently discovered us and what we're about. So this topic started over the weekend when we sat down to watch TV. Just going through Amazon Prime, looking at documentaries, and one that popped up was Bill W. And I've seen, there was a movie with, who was the guy that played Lieutenant Dan? Remember him? I don't remember the actor's name.
Dang it. Okay.
Doesn't he have like sort of a feminine name, or am I completely off base?
It starts with an S. At the end of the last name is like an S.
Well, anyway. Someone's screaming in their car right now.
I know.
Saying, it's this.
I know.
So, sorry. Anyway, I'd seen that movie where he portrays Bill Wilson. Bill Wilson is the founder of Alcoholics Anonymous, and he was married to Lois Wilson. And so the documentary covers the story of Bill Wilson starting Alcoholics Anonymous. It starts with him pre-drinking, goes through his drinking sprees up until the time he starts AA, and then post-AA. And his wife, Lois Wilson, is featured pretty prominently in this. And every time they talk about her, your heart kind of breaks, because they talk about her struggles as being the spouse of the most famous alcoholic of all time and what he endured to get this thing started. And just a brief synopsis, he was unavailable to her while he was a drunk, obviously.
Yeah.
When he got sober, he dove into that program as hard as one can and became unavailable to her as he helped other people. And then he became unavailable as the front man of Alcoholics Anonymous and being caught up in, all of that, setting up the traditions to make sure that the fellowship would be around long after he was gone. And it's almost like right at the very end of their life, she got a few good years with him before he passed away ultimately.
Yeah.
Of emphysema. He's a big smoker.
Yeah.
But she's like this tragic figure in this beautiful story about this famous alcoholic. And it's just like, man, is that not just the best way to like surmise the way that codependents and spouses of alcoholics are portrayed in general? Mm-hmm. So we're talking about the forgotten partner today. I think it's a fitting topic. I think that it's something we cover here. And for new listeners and for old ones as well, I think this will be validating for you. And I hope that you find something here that makes you feel like you're not alone and that you do deserve a voice.
Yeah.
By all means. You were just about to get going. I heard the engine get revved.
Yeah, you're letting me talk. Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Okay, so after we watched this documentary, I thought it would be a good idea. Hey, let's search for some documentaries on the spouses. So we searched Al-Anon or Lois or Codependent, and there was not very many movies that popped up. There was a movie with Winona Ryder that popped up that was about Lois.
What was it called?
When Love Is Not Enough, something like that.
I think so. I think you're right.
Yeah, and then I couldn't find like an actual documentary, but it kept popping up with addict documentaries.
One after another.
There were
endless
there
amounts.
were parades. There were the show Intervention. There were so many documentaries about how these addicts, about the disease and how they got through it and all this and that. And I'm just like, it kind of triggered me. Like, it really did. We were sitting in bed and I just kind of let loose. I was cussing and I want this to come from not a resentful place, because I'm not resentful about anything. I'm not a victim or anything like that. I'm actually in a very healthy space. So this is for those that are angry in the world right now with what they're going through.
They're right in the middle of it.
Yes, when you're right in the middle of it, because I'm giving you permission to have those feelings. You are allowed to be angry. But it pissed me off because I feel like we have been forgotten and we have gone through so much shit by loving so hard. We love so hard in our relationships and we get forgotten. There's nothing out there. Like, there are some things out there. There are some resources out there. I'm not going to downplay that. There are some, but not nearly as many as there are for the addicts.
No, like, I don't know when the turn happened, but sometime in the last decade, being in recovery kind of became like a badge of honor and like something really cool and something admired. And it doesn't so much have the stigma that it used to.
Yeah.
Because so many people have dealt with it. Like, have we done the stats on this? I think
we did. We have. I mean, it's very common, obviously. Like, there's a lot of people struggling with that out there. And I praise you. I think it's amazing what you went through. I think it's very, kudos to you. You deserve a fucking trophy. There's nothing wrong with that. But what about the ones who suffered from your hands?
Yeah,
what about the ones who
1,000%.
have had to deal with the trauma? What about the ones who just were doing the right thing as much as we could and we're getting shit on? Like, where's our voice? Where's our trophy? Yes, I know you can go to meetings and you can get it. It's not the same. This is different. It's not as big as it is for you guys.
Yeah, it doesn't permeate society the same way. Like, when you tell someone that you're a recovered addict, it's like you get kudos and fist bumps and things like that. And being the spouse of someone in recovery, or being the partner or spouse of someone who's still struggling, is something that people just don't talk about with a lot of pride in any way. I think it's something that people are scared to talk about. I think it's something that, when you look at your life and you say, okay, who am I? It has absolutely defined you in many ways, but that part of our identity is left out of conversations, and it's left out of certainly the mainstream world. Like, no one's really discussing what spouses and family members go through. Mm-hmm. In alcoholism, addiction, they are often referred to as a family disease, a family illness. And that's because it's almost like, you put a rotten apple in a batch of good apples and all of a sudden all of them are rotten. That's sort of what addiction does to family units and companies and, fellowships like churches and things like that. You get someone like that in there and they start to touch everyone else and suddenly everyone's sick in some way. It doesn't discriminate, and it absolutely wrecks families.
Yeah.
You guys go through this stuff, and when you come out the other end of it, there's just not a hell of a lot of resources out there to talk about what you've been through that will hold space for you and your resentment and your anger, which is, you should be validated. You should be validated. That is okay to feel angry. Like, your life has been derailed by something that wasn't your choosing, right?
Right.
And addiction at some point, so when the disease concept of addiction came into play, one major benefit that it had was it destigmatized addiction as a moral failure. And it started to look at it as a disease of the brain, a disease of the mind. And I look at, okay, so if a disease of the mind exists in just this one person, then how is it that everyone else around them ends up just as sick and we're not calling it anything except for essentially a moral failing?
Yeah.
You should just leave him. You should just go. What's wrong with you? Why would you stick around?
Why do you put up with that? Yeah.
Yeah, and like, I don't want to get too far off the rails this quickly,
no,
but
keep going.
When you look at, so love, I think, can universally be agreed as natural human biology. The capacity to love is unique to us, and to show affection for other people and to self-sacrifice for other people against your best interest is love. That is true love. And what these people will do for an addict and not get it reciprocated does have effects that are far-reaching and deep and traumatic. And no one's discussing what's actually going on in the codependent and the children and the family members of these people that are doing this. It's just not discussed. And we have, several theories as to why it's not as popular, but I think it sort of goes back to that feeling that it's sort of like a moral failing.
Yeah.
You're pretty emotional right now. You okay?
I am. I'm sorry. Yeah.
No, I think it's important that this is the side of it that no one gets to see. And if you're listening, you don't see it, but I mean, extremely emotional right now because this was your life.
But it's hard to speak up and say that I'm angry or that I've been angry about it because, like you said, people look at it. I'm the bad guy. I'm wrong for feeling angry. Like it's the spouses get told and judged that they're wrong for feeling that way, and I think that's complete bullshit.
Yeah,
I think. So I can feel this way, right? And I think that spouses can feel this way, but they can also recover and they can go and get help themselves too. They can get help with all the trauma that they've gone through. So I'm not saying that this is like sit in that anger and it's all of the addict's fault, because it's not all the addict's fault, but a lot of it is.
A lot of that stuff wouldn't have transpired had that person not been abusing drugs and alcohol. Let's just be real about it.
Right.
Like a good friend of mine, the good doctor, tells me that...
That's a show.
Is it?
Uh-huh.
Oh, he says that nature loads the gun and the environment pulls the trigger. So a lot of the things that were inside me, they were already there. I believe that they were already there, and my environment unlocked them. And you had some of that same stuff perhaps, but your environment was a direct result of me. So it's not exactly the same thing.
Right.
Like I have caused this in people that otherwise would have been fine. Let's imagine in a different universe, in a parallel dimension, we never met, you'd probably be fine. Just being real, right?
Maybe I would have found somebody else similar that I thought I could love, to change. Love them so hard that they would change. Because if they loved me as much as I loved them, they would do what I want them to do.
You did always like those project boys, didn't you?
Oh, yeah. I like bad boys.
I know you do. I know you do. And I'm grateful for that.
I did want to address something that I've noticed recently, too, that some recovering addicts say that it is harder to love an addict than it was to get sober.
Wow.
And that's kind of powerful, because we just love so fucking hard and we're just like trying to give you our all and we don't get it in return. But you can take your alcohol away and you can work on a program and better yourself, and it's very personal. For us, we love you so much, we can't just get rid of you.
It's so freaking tricky. And I was messaging someone in the TUFO community today, and I'm like, this business of being enmeshed with someone in addiction is so complicated and it's so complex. It's not just as easy as just take care of yourself and leave, or just make the decision to go. It's like you can't help love, right? We were talking about love and like how that is something unique to humans and how you love someone. And you want to talk about people saying that you have no control over your addiction. Like you can't necessarily control who you love either. Like you can't help the fact that you love our children.
Right.
You love them.
Yeah.
You can't just make that go away.
Yeah.
Like when we talk about powerlessness, I think that I would argue love is more powerless of an emotion than addiction ever was for me. So damn. I could absolutely see that. Like the way that you love somebody it transcends everything.
Yeah.
It transcends everything. I believe in the power of love, and I believe that there is something to that. and the way that codependents display it, it's the most beautiful thing and it's the most tragic thing in the world.
Yeah.
It really is. Like, it's this business of dealing with an addict. It's like, on one hand, everyone should hold space for you to say, I want you to be better than you are, and I wish you would just do the right thing. And at the same time, understanding that I can't make you do the right thing. Like, all those three thoughts are going on in your head all at the same time. How is that not confusing? You know, it is confusing. It is painful.
Yeah.
And there's just not a whole lot of people advocating that these people have a voice.
Yeah.
And because at the end of the day, there's not a clean cut solution for it. It's like for alcoholics, you can work the 12 steps. A lot of people recover because of it. And I know Al-Anon exists. I know a ton of people find recovery in Al-Anon. But if you look at the numbers in AA groups versus the numbers in Al-Anon groups, they're not even close. They're not even close. There are many more accessible AA groups all over the world than there are Al-Anon groups, which is striking to me because behind every alcoholic is a family unit that was affected that is also suffering.
Right.
So you would think they'd be equal, if not more, Al-Anon groups, because for every one, like the addict can touch 25 people on average that were affected by this addiction.
Yeah.
One person infects 25, yet the numbers are so much smaller in the other fellowship. I don't think it's because it's like ineffective or whatever. I think that the conversation around what this really is and what's going on is just confusing.
Yep.
And there's so much of the heart involved. It's so complex and it takes so much time to recover from and educate yourself on. It's really, really freaking difficult.
Yeah.
So something that we were talking about, and perhaps a reason that this is so damn confusing, is when I looked, before I ever got sober, I knew what a happy life looked like. I knew what happily ever after looked like for people in my shoes. Like, I knew when addicts got sober what their life could look like because Hollywood told me so. TV shows told me so. Books told me so. They would talk about this triumphant story of this person that, went to recovery, they hit rock bottom, they started working and they got better, and then everything was happily ever after and life was beautiful. And that's just what it looked like. And so I'm like, okay, that's what it looks like. But what does happily ever after look like for the partner? It's not really clear to anybody.
No, it's not.
Because it's also split. There's a lot of people who don't make it out of this thing.
Right.
And their happily ever after looks like a journey of self-empowerment and learning who they really are and what really makes them happy. And they might spend years without anyone else in their life intimately as they just focus on themselves, but then they come out of that way stronger.
Right.
Way stronger. For others, it's like our story, which is, we're the lucky ones, I think. We worked through this together, and there was
Together
an element
separately.
Yeah, together but separately, and there's an element of luck there too. Like, I've seen the stats. I'm not going to sit here and say that like I just have all the answers. Shit, maybe we just got lucky to a degree. I don't know. I'm just grateful for it.
Yeah.
But that's another version of happily ever after. And then for some others, happily ever after looks like learning how to live with someone in active addiction in the same home in the marriage.
Yeah.
And finding serenity in that storm.
Right.
So it's not so much clear what it looks like, and I think it's so individual.
It is. It is.
So for counselors, therapists, for groups to sit out here and talk about it, it's more about like, what do you want?
Right.
I think that everyone, if you asked them, that's like, I just want my freaking partner back.
Or I want them to stop using or drinking.
Yeah, like
but we all know that that's not going to fix the problems.
Yeah, so I think that it's not quite defined, and then sometimes it's also unrealistic. I think that the story that Hollywood might sell about me and you would be unrealistic because I don't think that's typical.
Right.
It's possible, but it's not typical.
Right.
So it's confusing to people, right?
Right.
It's like you're almost preparing yourself for the wrong things.
Yeah.
When you're working through this.
Can I tell you what recovery looked like for me?
Yeah, please.
So for me, it meant to build my self-esteem, become empowered, and be okay with or without you at any time. Like, I love you to death, but not to death.
Yeah.
that phrase, like, I love you so much, but there are boundaries, like now I love myself enough to know I'm valued. Like, I mean,
your worth.
I know my worth.
Yeah. Your worth.
And I think that should can be for anybody in any of those situations.
I think you're right. That's a constant in any of the three.
That can be the
Great
constant
point.
in any of them, is that you love yourself enough to know your worth and what your values are and how you deserve to be treated and what makes you happy, and self-care. And, there's so much that goes into it, but that's what the recovery of a spouse looks like. Because when you're in it, you don't have those things. You don't know what your values are. You don't have self-worth. You're lower than low. So recovery for the spouse, that's what it is for me.
I've got a question for you. I know you hate these on the spot.
No, it's okay. I'm okay.
But we did an episode back in January, I think, where you gave the account of your story from the start to the finish,
Right.
up to where we are today.
From loving the addict to loving myself.
Yeah, it's our most downloaded episode of all time, by the way. It's great. If you haven't heard it, go back and listen to that one for sure. It's excellent. It's excellent. But some people find recovery through 12-step programs. Some do it through Smart Recovery. Some do it through their church groups. Some others on their own personal journeys, whatever that might look like. But how did you figure this out? And do you think you could have figured it out if I didn't ever get sober?
Ooh. I don't know. I don't know if I could have ever figured it out if you didn't get sober. Because a lot of I would say that my recovery is like Frankenstein. It's, how we had the Frankenspirit type thing.
Yeah, we sort of put it all together.
Yes, this is like a Franken recovery. I didn't go to one program that got me better. I did a lot of different things. I learned a lot from your recovery because you would come home and tell me all different things. The Tao, finding my spirituality, that was one. I wouldn't have found that without you in your program.
I wouldn't have found it without a guy in the program either.
Right. And that's been amazing. And then therapy.
Tons of therapy.
Like that's been therapy's amazing. Self-help books, and then self-care. So finding what brings me joy and taking care of myself physically, working out, dancing, eating whole foods, doing things that make me uncomfortable, trying new things. Like all of that is part of my recovery.
Confidence building that goes with that.
Yes, a lot of confidence building that goes with that. So basically just building up my self-esteem and actually putting a lot of things aside, a lot of things on the back burner, and focusing on me like blinders.
You sort of had to force yourself to be selfish.
I did. And I don't think that's selfish.
I hate how selfish is like a bad word.
I don't think it is.
I mean
There's
that, I mean it
actually
in the best way.
Selfish means something differently than what society has made selfish to be. And I haven't done the research on it, but I did learn in therapy many years ago when I first started. She gave me a paper about the word selfish, and it really opened my eyes to what it really means. And self-care is not selfish. What we think in society, what selfish is not what it is. It's
Addicts
totally
are selfish.
Different. Oh, y'all are selfish as fuck.
What you were doing was not selfish by
because
any
all
means.
I try to do is help you, and you won't accept it.
Okay, something else is just on my mind. We talked about the disease concept of addiction and when that was developed and how that really changed addiction treatment as a whole, because they started to look at it not as a moral failing, but as something that people needed treatment for. So rather than locking everyone up in prison who had a drug or an alcohol problem, they opened up treatment centers and they developed different ways for them to recover. The 12 steps are still around and still, the most effective form of treatment for, I guess, addiction in general, but NA is essentially the same thing, Alcoholics Anonymous. But it also birthed other movements. So Refuge Recovery is a newer one that I just found out about that I think is awesome. Smart Recovery, Life Ring. There's several others.
Lots.
There's tons of different ways to work it, because science as a whole started to look at this thing and figure, how can we tackle this? And so I'm a bit of a conspiracy theorist when it comes to medicine. I don't get on conspiracy theories about anything else, but I do believe in the power of business and lobbyists.
Yep.
So when I look at codependency, what are the symptoms of codependency? And why is this not looked at like a medical issue that can be treated with a combination of therapeutics, maybe medicines, maybe some other things? Why have we not agreed on a course of treatment for this? And I think that it's complex in its nature, and I understand that it's very complex and it's very individual, but I can't help but think about the stats that we've gone through before, where one addict can affect 25 people, and the chances of children of an alcoholic or an addict becoming addicts or alcoholics themselves, or engaging in some kind of self-harm activity like cutting or eating disorders or things like that, it's much higher than people who were in a control group who didn't deal with this. So this thing has far-reaching effects. Why is no one looking at this and saying, we've got to help these people?
Yeah. What's your theory?
I would love to, I would love to see documentation and stats on rates of depression, obesity, self-harm, suicide amongst partners and spouses of alcoholics and addicts sometime after either separating or being in that relationship when no one's in recovery. And I would guess they're higher than a control group.
Yeah.
Like, it's at people's interest to treat this stuff, but I don't know. Is it because they sell more pharmaceuticals like antidepressant meds to people who haven't dealt with it?
Yeah.
Is it because it keeps people's pockets full? I don't know, but it makes no sense why addiction has been looked at this way, but this hasn't.
Yeah. Such a good point.
Like, it's crazy. Your environment can cause issues like this. We've agreed on that. Everyone's agreed on that the environment can cause issues.
Yes.
And that some people aren't just born with depression. They develop it over time from trauma.
Right.
So why aren't we looking at this? Why is no one looking at this?
Well,
I don't
here,
know.
We're putting it out there.
Yeah, maybe. And like, I don't know. One of my dreams in life is to run a study on this stuff.
Yeah.
And to get insurance to start paying for this crap.
Yeah.
Pay for treatment.
Well, because y'all get it paid for.
Yeah, they pay for ours, but they'll look at the spouse and be like, nope,
sorry.
You're fine.
You made a decision. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, you have a moral failing. Just go back to the drawing board on that. That's what they'll tell you.
Wild.
That is a mission of mine in life. Before I die, I would love to be part of the group, the cause that changes that.
Yeah.
That would be huge.
It's powerful.
So let's talk about when people talk about the moral failing of it all. And I think that we talked about, why is this not discussed in Hollywood? Why are there no documentaries about this?
We haven't talked about that yet.
Oh, that was before we cut. This is part 2.
We did actually cut and edit. Well, we didn't edit. But
I asked her a question earlier about 5 minutes ago, and she just stared at me.
No, you didn't. You did, because we were talking about something that I was like, wait, we were going to discuss that because that was a stupid thing.
So when we were on the documentaries about Bill W. and whatnot, and you were talking about...
Yeah, the whole point of this was that I wanted to dive into some research onto why there aren't documentaries on the
why are
spouses
these
or families.
stories? Why are these not success stories?
Why aren't there many resources? And this is what I came up with. I actually asked some people on social media to give me their input on it, and then I did some research. So first, it's limited audience appeal. So what does that mean, Matt?
So
I'm making you talk because I can't talk. Like, I want to talk.
You're struggling,
like,
man.
I really want to talk. This topic, y'all, I'm so passionate about. Like, it is. I can't. It puts a flame in me. Like, I could talk all day, but like, do this because
documentaries attract a wide audience in general, or they are so niche that they've got a following. So it might be like a cult following of some kind. Let's say you made a documentary about Dungeons and Dragons. People who love Dungeons and Dragons would certainly watch that, and they are out there in numbers.
Yeah.
When it comes to addiction, it's not just addicts watching these things. I would guess that less addicts are watching them, and it's more about people who love stories of triumph over adversity. Just like that documentary I watched on the people that ran the marathons. I don't run at all. I don't run unless I'm being chased by a bear.
Yeah.
But I watched it because it was like this awesome story about this thing. So when it comes to codependency, limited audience appeal in the sense that since we don't know what happily ever after looks like, what story do you tell and how do you make that appealing? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So
that was better than how I described it in the other episode. Thank you. Because obviously I was way off base.
I think that there are certain networks that do specialize in things like that. And people will rag on like Hallmark Channel and like Lifetime a lot, but
you love Hallmark Channel.
Dude, great. I love it. Lifetime, love it. Like, they're great stories on there, man. I've sat down with you and like, what's on TV? Like, what are you watching? And you'll be like, some movie on Lifetime, whatever.
Our daughter's name came from a Lifetime movie.
Boom, there you go. We love the channel. But networks like that, but maybe it ends up on something like that. But as far as a wider audience, someone who has dealt with this, a celebrity, someone of note, has not come out and told their story yet. They haven't come out and told their story and made others interested, because here's the fact, is that more people deal with this than they deal with addiction.
Yeah.
That's a fact.
Yes, it is.
If one addict affects 25 people, there are 25 times the amount of people who deal with this than deal with actual addiction in itself.
Yep.
It's just not as sexy of a story because it hasn't been told yet in a way that resonates with people.
Ooh.
And I hope that we do that.
Hell yes.
Hope that we do
Let's
that.
go.
Another thing is stigma and privacy concerns. That's another
Yeah.
reason that it's just not out there, we think. And that we've talked about the stigma related to this and how it's sort of looked at as a moral failing. And I think that that is true. It's like addiction was once accompanied with this major social stigma, but that's sort of been alleviated. Like tattoos used to be the same way. Now everyone's got tattoos. Your doctor might have tattoos. The guy that runs finance at your company probably has a sleeve of some kind. You know?
Yeah.
It's just out there. It's becoming more and more accepted. This is a conversation people still aren't having. And it's one that some people are probably uncomfortable having because they would be the only ones saying it.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so it's just not as many people willing to speak about it. And then I think you should talk about the next one, the sensitivity.
Oh, well, it would be really hard because it's deeply personal and emotional for us. And filming these kind of stories would be really challenging for people to, interview us, because you have to come in with respect and empathy and really talk to us in a manner that isn't so direct, because we're sensitive. We've been beat up, like
You're
don't
empaths in general too.
right. You don't come at me with your bluntness, come at me with more compassion.
Interviewer asked, why didn't you just leave him?
Right.
It's like, dude,
Right.
I should just choke you.
Right.
Did you just ask me that?
Don't come out. We're scared to be judged. We're judged by everybody. So come at this with compassion, and it might be better, but a lot of filmmakers may not know how to do that.
Yeah. And then the other ones we came up with were sort of like a hodgepodge of like a lack of access because so many people aren't talking about it.
Yeah.
Think about going out on a weekend trip with your girlfriends, right? Maybe 5 or 6 of you, maybe one of them, the other ones you kind of know by proxy because your kids go to the same school or whatever. They all sit down, they're talking about life and things like that. Like, they're probably not talking about this, man. And you would feel like you were on an island by yourself.
Yeah, and if they
Having
do
this
bring it up,
conversation.
I've had many people who bring it up with their friends, and they don't like to talk about it anymore because they don't understand them at all.
Yeah, it's just hard to relate if you
Yeah.
haven't been there before.
Yeah.
And then a misunderstanding or misrepresentation, I think,
Same
is
thing, yeah.
kind of this along the same lines, that if you haven't been there and you don't know what it's like, and it's difficult to articulate as well, to really explain what this is like.
Right?
It's like this forgotten syndrome and this forgotten partner. It's tough to I think portray that in a way that pays respect and homage to those that suffer with this and deal with this. The last thing I wanted to cover is this concept of loyalty to a fault and where that comes from. And we talked about love being a primary driver of a lot of this, right? But there are some people that I have spoken with, I know that you've interacted with as well, who will tell you in so many words that like they can't stand their spouse and they haven't wanted to be married for a very long time, but they're together because they're loyal.
Right.
Like, they're just loyal to a fault in some ways. And Till the Wheels Fall Off is like our battle cry for, it was our thing. This is our thing, right? That's the name of like our story.
Yeah.
But I think that you can apply that in so many different ways. Like, I'd love for people to apply that in the realm of self-development and to say like, I'm never giving up I'm never going to be a finished product. I'm always going to be a work in progress. I will keep working until the wheels fall off.
Yep.
But I think people will hear that and think that that's the only right answer to things like this.
Uh-huh.
And it's like, I'm just not giving up, period.
Right.
At the detriment of themselves, their children.
Uh-huh.
And then they feel shame for that, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, God, man, like, I just want to give you a hug. Like, there's no shame in this game.
Right.
There's no shame in that. There's no shame for wanting to stick by somebody.
Yeah.
It just comes to a point where you have to ask yourself, like, what am I costing myself?
Exactly.
What am I costing myself every time I go back or I enable or I do this or
Yeah.
That's the most difficult part.
Yeah.
It's like, what's the actual cost of that?
For
and
sure.
And the opportunity cost of that. So what are you not able to do with your life because you were doing the other thing instead? Like the opportunity cost of codependency is massive. And that's eventually what gets people to a point where they either figure out a way to work through recovery with their partner, or they decide, you know what, I can't do this for the rest of my life.
Right.
I just can't.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to sit around here and watch you kill yourself. I can't. I love you, but I cannot
Yeah.
do
It's powerful.
this because I have a life too. Like, life is not a dress rehearsal. Like, there's no reset button. You can't just start over tomorrow. Like, before you know it, you'll be, you know, in your 60s or 70s wondering where the hell the time went.
Yeah.
That happens.
Yeah.
I got a great.
We've seen.
I got a gray beard, man. I feel like
Yeah.
I was 20 yesterday.
Yeah.
It happens quick.
It does.
Crap goes by fast.
So true.
So anyway,
Did I talk about the vulnerable part in this episode?
I don't think so. Run us through it.
Where I said that, you know, it's very, there's stigma to this, and we don't talk. Hold on, let me think about this. We try to be vulnerable in our marriage.
Oh yeah, this was a good one.
Did I say this in here?
No, just go ahead. Just
Okay.
run it.
Okay, so we try to be vulnerable in our marriage, but we get shit on by the addict, right? Like, we over and over again, we try to be vulnerable. So why
You will tell me how you feel, and I will tell you that's stupid.
Yes.
You shouldn't feel that way.
Yes.
That's dumb. Here's why it's
Yes.
wrong.
Or blame, you know,
Victim
so
blame,
many,
yeah, all that stuff
So
that-
much crap.
that
So
we do when
why
we're
would we
active.
want to expose ourselves, or why would we want to be vulnerable somewhere else in other territories?
So hard
Because
to be
we're so
vulnerable after that.
scared of that backlash. I really don't know if we discussed this on this though.
I don't think we
I
did.
apologize if we doubled this.
So here's what happened. We started recording this.
We just said that.
Well, I just want to make it super clear in case someone's listening going, these idiots. So we were recording.
This is why we don't do this. We have to get it in one shot.
Yeah, we don't really edit or anything. So we were talking, and then there was some stuff. We make notes and we print out copies, and she gave me the copy. And there was a huge section she just X'd out and didn't want to cover, but we didn't discuss it first. So I started covering it, and she just looks at me like I'm an idiot.
No, I'm sorry. That's
And
my
she's
fault.
like, dude, turn it off.
You're supposed
Start
to read my
over."
mind, damn it.
But anyway, she had this awesome take on vulnerability and how you're essentially trained throughout the course of marriage and your relationship that it's not okay to be vulnerable, and in fact, you should just avoid that altogether.
Yeah.
And so when it comes time for you to recover and work through this stuff, it's really tough to be
Or
vulnerable.
share your story.
And I just want to shout out every person that has messaged us, left a comment, who has posted in the community and has shared the deepest, darkest part of your closet with us. Like, that vulnerability, man, that's powerful.
It is powerful, and it is healing for you.
It's beautiful. It is appreciated. Others see it.
I know it sucks, but damn, it's huge for you to get it out there.
Yeah, some people are just willing to stand up there and be like, yeah, this is what I'm going through. And it's so hard to do. And for those of you that aren't there yet, I'm not criticizing you at all. It's
No.
okay. Totally okay. I understand
It's
why
not all or nothing.
it's not comfortable to talk about. I totally
Absolutely.
get it. Especially on social media, you know? It's like you've got a picture of your family, like from the fall photo shoot, and everyone's all happy. And then you're talking about like what's really going on, which is kind of like this dichotomy of this life that we live. It's like this life that we want everyone to see. And then we have the actual life behind
Yeah.
closed doors, and it looks nothing like the photos that we present.
Right.
You know, I used to say all the time when I was like newly sober that like, oh, I was around. Yeah, I made sure that I was in the Facebook photos, so it looked like I was a present father and a present husband. I'd be there and smile, and then I was off to the races. You know,
Yep.
I can fake anything in a photo.
Yeah.
You know, but what I see when I see these photos, primarily from women, men as well, what I see is like, this is what is being stolen from them. And I think they have every right in the world to be destroyed and hurt and hold space for them while they're angry about this
Yeah.
and resentful.
Yes.
Like, it's okay to feel that way.
It is
It's
okay.
okay, man.
It
This
is.
thing has ripped your family apart. It's okay.
Yes, it is. And
I want to love every one of you.
but do not put all that hate and blame into other people either. Like there's a process to this, right? It is okay for you to feel this way. Give yourself space and time.
It's such a process,
But
and I think it's one that's measured
We
in
can
years.
help, yeah, but we can help guide you through that, healing to get through it.
Yeah, we'll keep bringing our story. We'll keep bringing the content. We'll keep doing the research. We'll keep putting stuff out there. And we are working on some really, really cool stuff behind the scenes that we hope to present to you guys this fall.
Yes.
In an effort to help as many people as possible on a scale. So
I can't wait. I'm sorry.
she's yawning. I think I'm losing. Did you take NyQuil again?
I did not.
You're over there
Not
boozing
yet.
on the NyQuil.
Not yet. I've got it. I'll take it around 9:30. Boozing on the NyQuil.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
See, Matt used to be the guy who chugged the NyQuil, and I'm the one who has the little measuring cup, making sure it's perfectly 30
You just swig it,
milliliters.
man.
And he's like, gulp, gulp, gulp.
I don't mess with that crap unless I have to. And to this day, I still won't drink the stuff with the alcohol in it.
I know, but that's just how it used to be, though. It's
Oh
kinda
yeah, I
fun.
used to just take that stuff straight to the dome, man. Just take it down.
Yeah.
It tastes like crap. I mean, I don't want to enjoy it, but
No.
liquor did too.
But I want you partners to have a voice. Y'all speak up when you can, or just know that you're not alone.
Yeah, this episode was constructed by Paige. This is something that she's been on. You've been on a tear with this for 4 or 5 days now, I feel like. I mean, just really, really in it. And she really wanted everyone to have this message, this voice out there that you matter.
Yeah.
You matter.
Yep.
All right. Well, we've mentioned it before, but we haven't mentioned it for a bit now. But we are part of a foundation called the Counseling for the Future Foundation. And the Counseling for the Future Foundation is raising money to put therapists, would-be therapists, through school debt-free. So many, many therapists are out there working their butt off in school, working 2 jobs, and then they graduate with a ton of student debt. And then they go to be an associate in their field, which they have to do is mandatory, and they're unable to make ends meet. So a lot of them end up leaving the field because the student debt just paralyzes their budget. So the Counseling for the Future Foundation is working to change that. We have actually just graduated our very first therapist debt-free.
That's so awesome.
So we have a website, counselingfutures.org, where you can go and donate, and any amount is fine. If you have a penny to give, a penny would be appreciated. Literally every dollar that you donate goes straight to the scholarship. We don't have any administrative fees. We are all volunteers. No one on the board gets paid for anything. This is truly an altruistic movement to help people get into the field so that whenever you need help, when you pick up the phone, there's a therapist there, because there just aren't enough to meet demand. The stats are out there. You can read them. They're on the website. This is all factual. I'm not trying to skimp you for a penny. This is us trying to help people. So if you haven't checked out Counseling for Future Foundation, please head over to the website and check that out. It's also available on our website.
Yeah.
Okay, I think that's all we've got for this time. Are we going to be back Friday?
I don't know. Are we?
Maybe.
Oh, you're going to make me talk again with this cold?
If we get enough people saying they want a Friday episode this week, we will dump a Friday episode. So
Okay.
let us know. Okay, thank you to everyone who has interacted with us. If you've just found us, welcome. If you've been with us for a while, thank you so much for your support. We will keep bringing it. Until next time, I am Matt,
I'm Paige.
and we'll see you.
Bye.